Driver. Driver may have an infamously challenging tutorial, but that doesn't change the fact that everything that comes afterwards is a blast. The developers sought to transition big screen car chases into a video game format, something that they nailed for the time period. Players control an undercover officer investigating a criminal organisation, which has them pulling various jobs in big cities. From Miami to New York City, the game's locales were surprisingly open and non-linear by 1999 standards. Although its sequels would never reach the same heights, Driver delivered plenty of thrills to warrant them. Spider-Man.
I gotta say, you look just like me. Except, you're more angry back alley than friendly neighborhood.
Though Spider-Man had starred in games before, his jump to 3D was a sight to behold. It follows Spidey as he tries to clear his name of a crime he didn't commit, all the while dealing with his famous rogues gallery. Boss fights with the likes of Venom, Mysterio and Doc Ock blew every comic fan's mind, as did swinging around New York City thanks to the hero's traversal mechanics. Long before Insomniac perfected the formula, developer Neversoft did a marvellous job at putting the Spider-Man experience in the palm of our hands. The studio's work acted as a blueprint for many games to come.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was out saving the world.
Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey.
That's me. My name is Abe. I was Employee of the Year. Now I'm dead meat.
During a time where 3D was the next big direction for games to go in, some developers still proved they could give players an engaging experience from a 2D perspective. The first game in the Oddworld series follows Abe, an alien known as a Madokan, as he tries to free his people from their vicious rulers. Through a combination of puzzle solving and stealth, Abe sneaks and leads his compatriots through traps, enemies and other obstacles. Each screen you conquer feels more satisfying than the last. In tandem with its art direction and graphics, Oddworld's gameplay made it unique to many platformers of the era.
My test was completed. I expected to rest. Then the big face revealed the intent of my quest.
Ape Escape. Creating a game around an entirely new control scheme can be hard, but Japan's studio knocked it out of the park with Ape Escape. Sony released the first DualShock controller, defined by its twin analog sticks, after the PlayStation, and this game was the first to require it. The simple yet charmingly goofy premise had players tracking highly intelligent apes through time as they tried to change history. While the left stick controlled the protagonist, the right controlled his gadgets. 2 joysticks may not seem like a big deal today, but it was groundbreaking back then. Thankfully, not only was it different, but a hell of a lot of fun too.
Yes!
Parappa the Rapper.
I see you're getting better. Kick to the limit in order to get an out kick punch.
While many of Sony's current day first-party games provide sprawling worlds, rich narratives and a cinematic style, some on its first system were decidedly weirder and sillier. Parappa the Rapper is a perfect example. The game's cartoonish, flat graphics look something that Nintendo would put out, and even went on to inspire Paper Mario. While its visuals gave it a distinct look, its gameplay also set it apart. Focusing on the titular rapping dog, players went through various performances as Parappa tried to impress his crush. It may not have been the first rhythm game, but it was the first to gain mainstream appeal.
M-I-X, the flower to the bone. Thinking a cake yes means you gotta try 'em.
Twisted Metal 2.
There will be no safe zones this year, no places to hide. In the next 24 hours, the entire world will know my name.
The first Twisted Metal was an action-packed joyride overflowing with mayhem. In a dystopian Los Angeles, drivers competed with their vehicles of death to see who would remain standing. But the sequel did every single thing better. Twisted Metal 2 included more weapons and a larger roster, giving players even more variety in how they attempted to destroy their opponents. It also took its disturbing characters worldwide, adding levels that were both varied as well as much more expansive than what was in the first game. It was a joy to destroy by yourself, but it also offered plenty of replayability with multiplayer. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver.
Eternity is relentless, Razia.
Set 1500 years after the original Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver follows the vampire Raziel, who is revived as a wraith to bring justice to the vampire lord who killed him. In 1999, it was a prime action-adventure title. Its dark visuals and story sucked players in, while its simple but fun gameplay and fantastic level design kept them coming back. Sadly, legal issues concerning the original series developer, Silicon Knights, led to delays and a lack of funding. This caused some elements to be taken out and the ending to be rushed. Even still, it's a remarkable game.
Fate promises more twists before this drama unfolds completely.
Spyro the Dragon.
And he's helping and protecting you. Keep an eye on him and see what I mean.
With the world's dragons cursed and turned to crystal, the task of freeing them landed at the feet of an underdog. Sony had a couple of platforming mascots to compete with Nintendo, and Spyro was one of the coolest. Gliding, stampeding, and fire-breathing our way through fantastical levels was a joy thanks to its wonderful controls. As 3D platformers were growing to be more expansive with their level design, it was also great just living in the game regardless of how it was played. Everything about it helped differentiate Spyro the Dragon in what was an extremely crowded genre at the time.
A wise dragon once told me, aim high in life, but watch out for flying boxes.
Chrono Cross. Whether or not Chrono Cross lived up to the expectations set by the bona fide SNES classic that preceded it is up for debate. But the fact remains that it's still an incredible PlayStation JRPG. As Surge, players travel between their reality and one that is vastly different, attempting to find out why they split. There isn't much here that couldn't delight fans of the genre. A huge, engaging narrative, beautiful, enticing locales, 45 possible party members, plenty of secrets, and combat balance to be just challenging enough. It's no wonder reviewers praised it across the board. Crash Bandicoot Warped.
You lost the crystals, and I have lost my patience.
Crash's first two titles were stellar hits, and Naughty Dog managed to close out its trilogy on an exceptionally strong note. With a gang of villains teaming up to take over the world, players hopped across time periods to thwart them. Every level burst with personality, due to the beautiful team-up of pitch-perfect design and an infectious soundtrack. Its difficulty level was right on the nose for platformer fans. It had us all frantically mashing buttons and directions to narrowly avoid its obstacles and enemies, placed just right to trip you up. We wouldn't see this level of quality in Crash's mainline games for quite a while. Vagrant Story. There were a ton of wonderful RPGs on the original PlayStation, and Square put out one of the best ones. Set in a fantasy world like many others, Vagrant Story stands out with its intriguing plot and cinematic approach. Players control Ashley Riot, an agent of the kingdom investigating a mysterious cult. The characters and story have fantastic depth, as does the combat. It blends real-time action with strategic elements, like a risk bar that fills when you fight and affects various mechanics. The narrative begs for you to keep digging, while the challenging fights will test to see if you're willing to keep up your pursuit. Silent Hill. The game that launched the beloved survival horror series, Silent Hill was an impressive display on Sony's hardware. Although its distance fog may seem dated now, at the time, it helped create the haunted town's atmosphere. It was impossible to explore its mist-ridden streets or gloomy interiors without being on edge over what abomination would lunge out at us next. Konami wanted us to feel helpless and alone. As we took Harry Mason on the hunt for his missing daughter, that's exactly what we felt. Though the series' peak wouldn't come until later, this was an excellent starting point.
So you don't know anything either. Great.
Tomb Raider.
You could leave tomorrow. Are you busy tomorrow?
The PlayStation featured many games that would become influential stepping stones within their genres, and the action-adventure genre owes an awful lot to Tomb Raider. The game captured the sense of exploration, discovery, and the thrills of going on a globe-trotting adventure. At that point, that hadn't been seen much in 3D games, if at all. Its puzzles and traps put us in deadly, yet entirely exciting predicaments, and they were all encased within revolutionary level design. Among all the other notable gifts to the gaming world was Lara Croft, an endearing, fearless protagonist and a natural icon of the medium.
Thank you.
Gran Turismo 2. Everything about Gran Turismo 2 still seems impressive today. Its graphics were the pinnacle of what the PlayStation could offer, even if it was towards the end of its life cycle. It boasted 27 tracks and more than 600 different vehicles, a spectacular amount for a game back then. However, more important than any of its bells and whistles, it was just genuinely great to play. Though similar to the first, mechanics were honed and refined to racing perfection. The game was fast, exhilarating, and the closest you could get to high-speed races without leaving your house. Tekken 3. PlayStation fans got to enjoy getting ports of the arcade heavyweight Tekken for years. With the third entry, they got one of the best fighters ever developed, along with some great exclusive content. Tekken 3 was praised for many things, including a huge roster of new characters and addictive gameplay that held your attention with ease. Having it at home was a godsend. The satisfaction of bettering yourself to conquer the computer and friends alike was supreme, due to how much depth the mechanics actually had. The console exclusive content, like the Tekken Force beat 'em up mode, were nice bonuses too. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. During a brief time where every single one of us was obsessed with skater culture, Neversoft and Tony Hawk gave us the best sports game of the era. The first entry was certainly a hit, but the sequel was a juggernaut both in sales and acclaim. Every level is a flawlessly constructed playground, with tantalizing objectives and pristine controls to help you chase after them. It felt incredible to play, and sucked up plenty of hours as we tried to perfect our tricks. It also had just the right level of absurdity, with a bunch of cheat codes and awesome unlockable characters. Resident Evil 2. The first Resident Evil was a tense, genre-defining release, so it says a lot that its sequel absolutely outshines it.
Wait! Don't shoot!
Get down!
In the middle of being razed to the ground by zombies, Raccoon City as a setting is both well-defined and exceptionally frightening. Both plotlines, focusing on newcomers Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, are filled with moments that had players on the edge of their seats and gripping their controllers in fear. That's because its visuals were so strong, its violence so alarming, and its scenarios so well crafted that it was impossible to not let the fear take hold. Resident Evil 2 was another glorious step forward for the survival horror genre. Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
Many franchises have entries that forever change them, steering them towards world renown while causing them to evolve for the better. For Castlevania, that entry was undoubtedly Symphony of the Night. Konami took the gothic horror the series was known for and injected some Super Metroid DNA. As a result, Dracula's castle became a huge puzzle to solve. The mechanics were swift and smooth, giving us quick-paced combat and traversal. There were even a few RPG touches within Alucard's arsenal. Sticking with the 2D also made it age much better than most games on the system. With a game this great, it's not surprising it helped establish the Metroidvania subgenre. Final Fantasy VII. Even if Square Enix hadn't chosen to remake it, Final Fantasy VII would still have legions of fans swooning over its greatness today. As you probably already know, it follows an ex-mercenary who helps an eco-terrorist group fight a greedy, world-killing organization, only for his troubled past to hunt him throughout. It's hard to think of a feature that wasn't praised upon release. As the first 3D game in the series, its graphics were unbelievable. The depth of its story was almost unimaginably good, and the music revolutionized how vital a soundtrack could be to its game. That's not to mention its characters, who were kept in the limelight for decades through fan adoration. Metal Gear Solid.
There are no heroes in war,
All the heroes I know are either dead or in prison.
A lot of franchises floundered during the dawn of 3D. Metal Gear was one that not only flourished, but influenced the entire video game industry.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility.
Excellent, Snake.
There weren't any other games around that told their stories as well as Metal Gear Solid did. Players were immediately grabbed by the espionage plot, most of which was delivered through riveting cinematic cutscenes courtesy of creator Hideo Kojima's love for film. Its characters also felt deeper and more flawed than any other. That's all on top of its groundbreaking gameplay, which pushed stealth to the forefront. On a system surrounded by all-time greats, Metal Gear Solid's impact and quality can never be understated.
You're incredible.
Parappa the Rapper 2.
For some reason, all our burgers turned into noodles. It's really not that bad though, you should try it.
That's not the point. The first Parappa will always hold a special place in our hearts for its surreal style and charming songs. Unfortunately, the accuracy of the beats and the game's short length have made this PS1 classic age poorly. Its sequel, on the other hand, fixed those shortcomings.
Very nice.
Inputs are more in line with the rhythm of every song. The main campaign features more songs, and there is an equally amusing multiplayer offering for you and your friends. Parappa the Rapper 2 may not have been a must-own for every PS2 player, but it was miles better than its predecessor.
Yeah, I know. I gotta believe.
War of the Monsters. Few games have managed to fulfill the epic fantasy we've had with our friends, where each of us battles it out as our own kaiju. And alas, few games of that caliber felt satisfying to play in general. War of the Monsters helped wrangle in a focused and fun experience for PS2 players. From the modest roster of monsters to the destructible environments, this was a heck of a party game for Sony's second console, and offered up dozens of hours of playtime with its unique concept, wealth of modes, and arcadey nature. Why Sony hasn't brought back this game for a sequel is beyond us, but hopefully, War of the Monsters will someday return instead of just being another PS2 game ported to PS5. Grim Grimoire. Grim Grimoire was one of many PS2 gems that suffered an agonizing fate, becoming a commercial failure. It truly was an injustice considering how imaginative this title was. Summon familiars to help you fight hostile mobs, de-shroud the fogs of war, and figure out where everyone in your school disappeared to. In addition to boasting a beautiful art style, Grim Grimoire managed to conjure a challenging adventure that any fan of strategy games would enjoy. So, if you haven't had the chance to check out the remastered Grim Grimoire once more, now is the time to do so. Guitar Hero 2.
Your Highness, I'm left black.
Before launching an expanded version on Xbox 360, Guitar Hero 2 was letting players jam out on PS2 one last time before taking the leap into the 7th generation of consoles. Whereas the first Guitar Hero managed to sell us on the idea of rocking out with a weighty piece of plastic around our neck, this sequel fine-tuned the controls and mechanics while also improving on the visuals overall. On top of that, the focus on more heavy metal was empowering to hear as we journeyed to become the virtual rock stars we were born to be. If only our skills were able to translate to a real guitar.
But it can only bring you down, turn yourself around.
Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is, simply put, one of the greatest horror games ever made. if not one of the best games ever made in general. The funny thing is, our infatuation with it doesn't come from any particular mechanic, but rather its mystery.
Oh yeah, 3 years ago. But I got a letter from her. She says she was waiting in our special place.
There are so many layers to James Sunderland's story in terms of what his version of Silent Hill is, how the monsters represent his fears and perceptions, and the thoughts he's been repressing since his wife's passing. Every time you play it, there's a new facet of horror to uncover. Plus, it's a fun game to try and speedrun. Katamari Damacy. Rarely do we get a game that presents a unique concept and executes upon it exceptionally well. Katamari Damacy came with a simple premise: roll objects up into a ball, and it was one of the most satisfying ideas we've come across. Across a multitude of levels, you'll roll up objects within a time limit before hurling them into space and turning your mass of materials into a star. That wacky concept, coupled with a fantastic soundtrack, are what made Katamari Damacy one of the best franchises to come out of Bandai Namco Entertainment. Dark Cloud 2, aka Dark Chronicle.
Well, not yet. You see... Now, Mayor, are you really trying hard enough?
Admittedly, the story of Dark Cloud 2 isn't as strong as its predecessor. We will never forget our time with Toan, but Dark Cloud 2 excels over the original game in other ways. First off, the voice acting is immensely better than what we had before.
It gets a little rowdy around here, so this guy will come in handy.
Wow, really? It's okay?
Second, combat is much more fluid and the mechanics are more refined. And the best improvement of all? You don't have to deal with that damn thirst mechanic anymore. Sure, Dark Cloud 2 has its own shortcomings, but it still managed to flesh out and focus in on what was working for its predecessor. Gran Turismo 4. Man, Gran Turismo has certainly seen better days, and when it comes to racing sims, few have reached the same level as Gran Turismo 4. Despite being a couple decades old, this game is still a marvel to behold in terms of visuals. From lighting and shadows to the models of the cars and detailed textures, this game truly showed the visual fidelity that the PlayStation 2 was capable of. On top of that, the addition of driving missions offered up more high-octane racing for us to speed along tracks for hours. Kingdom Hearts 2.
My name is of no importance. What about you? Do you remember your true name?
Oh, Kingdom Hearts. Our first ride through Twilight Town and other Disney worlds will forever remind us of one of the best JRPGs we've ever played. However, Kingdom Hearts 2 ekes out the win by a very small margin. Not only did it boast higher quality visuals and animation, but it came with a vast array of improvements and new mechanics. Reaction commands proved to be an excellent addition to the combat, allowing for more room to dodge or pull off spectacular attacks. As for the gummy ship, these segments were significantly more fun than the basic version we had in the previous game. So, is it really a surprise why it's regarded as one of Square Enix's best games? Twisted Metal Black. We won't lie, Twisted Metal Black can get unreasonably difficult at times, even when playing on easy. However, it reinvented and reintroduced the IP's identity in ways the original games could not accomplish on PS1. Highly detailed vehicles and environments, more hazards across each stage, brilliant writing and character development, and an intensely haunting soundtrack kept us coming back to blast more cars, trucks, and structures. Though, if you prefer a more arcade-like experience, we can understand why many consider the PS2 port of Head On to be the superior of the two. Sly 2, Band of Thieves.
This is Peking Duck. I hear you, Blizzard.
No, Sly, I'm the wizard, and you're sitting duck.
It isn't often we see a sequel reach for a level of ambition quite as high as Sucker Punch Productions aimed when developing Sly 2. To see this franchise go from a simple 3D platformer into an early example of open world gameplay was a sight to behold. Adding to this drastic shift in level design were the inclusions of Murray and Bentley as playable characters, missions that exuded the feeling of pulling off a grand heist, and more noticeably, better performances from voice actors Kevin Miller, Matt Olson, and Chris Murphy. Just sneaking around for an hour in Paris will show anyone why this is regarded as the best of the Sly Cooper games, and one of Sucker Punch's best games, period.
In pieces, sure, but the threat is real. Does the Claw Gang even realize what they've stolen?
Champions of Norath, Realms of EverQuest. The fact that there is no way to play Champions of Norath on modern hardware is a crime. This legendary game was one of the most fun action RPGs we had ever played, thanks to its wonderfully crafted world, deep combat mechanics, and high replayability factor. On top of that, it was one of a handful of titles that helped rein in online gaming for consoles by allowing up to 4 players to play together. Again, how has this not been ported to modern hardware? And what do we need to do to make it happen? Final Fantasy X.
I thought Sin just took me to a faraway place, that I could go back in a day or two. But 1,000 years into the future?
If there was any Square Enix title that perfectly cemented their place in the PlayStation ecosystem, it was Final Fantasy X. While it abandons a couple of systems that made previous titles work, it introduces new ones that work just as well. The new battle system helped newcomers enter the series without any pressure to make quick and possibly reckless decisions. The new sphere grid gave players more choice in how they wanted to tune characters and their stats. And that's story. Yes, make all the jokes you want about the laughing scene, but this is a story worthy of a chef's kiss. Mwah.
Whoa! Wow!
Ratchet & Clank, up your arsenal.
Officials believe that an evil robotic supervillain known as Dr. Nefarious is the mastermind behind the Tyrannoid attack. As you can see, the Galactic Rangers are putting up a valiant fight, but they are no match for these tentacle-eyed terrors.
To those of you who absolutely adore the Future Saga on PS3, the PS4 remake, or Rift Apart on PS5, everything you love about those titles leads back to Up Your Arsenal. This was the game where Insomniac Games managed to perfect the ideas and formulas laid out by the first 2 games in the series, and created a third-person shooter that was fantastic from start to finish.
Oh man, this job is too much fun!
Weapons could be expanded upon further than before. The weapon wheel was reworked into something more quick and responsive to complement weapon swapping. And Dr. Nefarious quickly established himself as one of the best villains ever created. It's truly hard to find one thing to detest about Up Your Arsenal. Persona 4.
You're starting school today, right? My school's on the way, so let's go together.
We can understand and sympathize with hardcore Persona 3 fans, but we had to go with Persona 4 for this one. How many times have you heard JRPG fanatics gush over the visual style or the assortment of well-written characters wrapped up in an incredibly suspenseful murder mystery?
This chair and rope? That kind of arrangement is never good.
It's almost hard to gush about without giving away too much of the game. Look, if you haven't played Persona 4 yet, the expanded and enhanced Persona 4 Golden is available on modern hardware as of January 2023. Go buy it and play it. You have no excuses.
Okay, now go, get out of here. I'm a busy bear.
God of War 2. The Ghost of Sparta's first game was a stellar outing, even though it had a few blemishes. God of War 2, on the other hand, came out looking and playing more beautifully. Controls were more responsive, combat was just as fast and frenetic as before, and just like with Gran Turismo 4, the PS2's visual fidelity was on full display. Sure, there wasn't a remarkable difference in mechanics, but hey, at least there wasn't any nonsense like that damn Tower of Blades at the end of the first game. Okami. Okami was one of many games that was unfortunately overshadowed by the imminent release of the PlayStation 3, causing the game to flounder in sales. What many missed out on was one of the most creative and gorgeous JRPGs we have ever played. From the cel-shaded art style to the imaginative uses of the celestial brush in puzzles and combat, Okami was a hell of a visual spectacle, and its story was truly captivating as you witnessed the tale of Amaterasu. We're just sad that the poor sales are what caused developer Clover Studio, who also brought us gems like Beautiful Joe and God Hand, to close its doors. Thankfully, many of those staff members would go on to form Platinum Games, Ignition Games, and even Tango Gameworks. Shadow of the Colossus. What is there to say about Shadow of the Colossus that hasn't already been said? We, along with several other outlets and content creators, have beaten the drum about how this game is a masterclass in level design, enemy design, and storytelling. Sure, the PS2 version isn't the best way to play it these days, but even back then, it was unlike any other game we had seen at that time. What Team Ico and Sony Japan Studio accomplished was absolutely remarkable, and it's a must-play for anyone who calls themselves a fan of PlayStation. Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater.
If we don't get Sokolov back before that weapon is complete, we'll be facing a major crisis.
Whether you're a fan of the Metal Gear franchise or stealth games in general, Snake Eater is the prime example of how to execute a stealth game. It wasn't just enough to hide around corners or inside boxes anymore. Snake Eater demanded players to be more crafty and tactile in their approach. There was more of a focus on utilizing your environment to sneak past guards and infiltrate areas.
You must be Sokolov.
Rather than having a mini-map showing you where every enemy was, you had to gauge sonar and motion detectors and keep track of guards with your own eyes. On top of that, you had to keep track of how well your outfits helped you blend into the environment. There were so many layers to the gameplay that made Snake Eater the best game in the franchise and a treasure of the PS2 catalog.
Drift away.
My place is with them now.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Welcome home, Carl. Glad to be back.
Many will point to GTA 3 or Vice City as the starting point in GTA's success. We would argue San Andreas was the one. As media pundits push for a narrative and claim video games cause violence, San Andreas was innovating the open world immersive sim genre we know today.
I thought this was family stuff.
Yeah, it's Temple Drive family. We don't roll with them no more.
Top-tier voice acting paired with stellar writing, an expansive world to complement the non-linear gameplay, improved controls in both movement and driving. San Andreas barged through our door and brought us a game that would influence the industry for years. So, why shouldn't it be considered the best PS2 game of all time?
Starhawk.
The Rift boom days are over.
Of the first-party PS3 exclusives, Starhawk was kind of the red-headed stepchild of the family. It was barely marketed by Sony, which is a real shame considering how much fun the game actually was. A spiritual successor to the Warhawk franchise, it featured the same explosive action as its predecessors, but with a few more bells and whistles. Players could build bases and bunkers in the midst of combat, and you could pilot colossal mechs. The single-player campaign may not have been anything too spectacular, but there was still a lot to love here. Yakuza 4. Though it is available on more platforms today, Yakuza 4 was originally a PS3 exclusive, so it qualifies for the list. Despite not being the most critically acclaimed in the franchise, nor the best-selling, Yakuza 4 was the entry where folks started paying more attention to the IP. Multiple playable characters, a modest-sized world to explore, and diverse movesets were some of the game's strongest points. The story might be hit or miss for the hardcore fans of the series, but Yakuza 4 is still worthy of being called one of the best PS3 games. Tokyo Jungle. To stand out from the crowd, you sometimes have to do some pretty ridiculous things. Sometimes it's best to throw all logic out the window and have some pure, unadulterated fun. That was the approach of Tokyo Jungle, a survival game that is arguably one of the strangest and most entertaining of its genre. Humans have now become extinct, leading to a crisis in the animal kingdom. Taking control of dogs, cats, crocodiles, pandas, and more, you'll have to traverse and fight your way through this humanless world. Even with an idea absurd as this, Tokyo Jungle is a surprisingly intriguing title, balancing its serious yet goofy tones rather well. If only it had migrated to modern platforms. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Bring it on, Space Mate.
Look, we give PlayStation All-Stars a lot of crap. We've put it on several lists of disappointing crossovers and failed Smash Bros. Clones. But credit where credit is due. It's honestly a fun game to play. Every character feels as though they were ripped directly out of their games, both visually and mechanically. Stages featured bizarre mashups of different PlayStation IPs that added new environmental hazards to the fight, like raining golf balls in Sandover Village and trivia questions in Little Big Planet. There was a wild and chaotic charm here that made PlayStation All-Stars stand out a bit, even if Kratos was broken as hell. Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. Thieves in Time was still an excellent title in the Sly Cooper franchise. Whereas Sly 3 removed certain aspects that made Sly 2 so great, Thieves in Time reintroduced them, throwing in more clue bottles and treasures to find. New costumes, gadgets, and playable characters brought forth interesting puzzles and challenges to overcome. Sure, the game wasn't as well optimized as previous Sly games, but developer Sanzaru Games deserves recognition here, even if the game ended on a very open-ended note that has left the series unfinished. Killzone 2. Despite having a very controversial marketing tactic, remember that fake game trailer? Killzone 2 is still regarded as the absolute best installment in the franchise. For a time, Killzone 2 was the reason to own a PlayStation 3, with its astounding visuals, tight controls, action-packed campaign, and exceptional multiplayer. Really, you would have been hard-pressed to find even one significantly awful thing about this game. It is such a fantastic game that it really hurts knowing we can't go back online and fight with our friends since the server shut down in 2018. Maybe someday we'll get a remaster for PlayStation 5? Who knows? Twisted Metal. With the explosion of online gaming, we were left to wonder what a new Twisted Metal would look like in this new space. The answer was team-based deathmatches and a new nuke mode. On top of that, we got an exciting new story mode that focused on Sweet Tooth, Dollface, and Mr. Grimm, each with their own unique cutscenes and epic boss battles. Special weapons with interchangeable abilities, more ways to destroy the competition, and the newly mechanized Sweet Tooth all made this a joyfully maddening way to spend an afternoon indoors. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch.
Slow down, Mr. Drippy.
But Ding Dong Dell's just down the way!
There just hasn't been an RPG quite like Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. As a young boy named Oliver, you journey across the land, finding, battling, and taming familiars. Yes, it is very easy to call it PlayStation's Pokemon, but it is so much more than that. Just an hour or two with it showed us a game that boasts an excellent story, breathtaking visuals, and superb animation done by the legendary Studio Ghibli. There was so much love and tons of care put into this world, and Ni no Kuni would receive enough success to warrant a sequel in 2018. Journey. The PS3 saw a handful of wonderful indie titles to help kickstart the indie scene on PlayStation. Flow, Sound Shapes, and Flower, to name a few. But of them all, Journey is the one we find ourselves coming back to years later. The worldless storytelling is mysteriously brilliant, the environments are gorgeous and imaginative, and every puzzle presents its own unique challenge despite having such simplistic mechanics. It is absolutely one of those games that everyone needs to play at least once, and completionists have a special reward waiting for them at the end. Demon's Souls. At the time, Demon's Souls was a game that not many folks knew what to do with. While Dark Souls would introduce many players to the genius behind From Software and director Hidetaka Miyazaki, Demon's Souls was the start of it all. The enemy and level design conjured up vibrant and dismal locations, while the deep combat mechanics made every fight feel like a challenge. Tough but fair, Demon's Souls birthed a whole new community in the gaming landscape, and to see it rejuvenated on PlayStation 5 is heartwarming. Plus, the extremely short load times makes the game even better than it was in 2009. Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots. You'd be hard-pressed to find a game below Solid in the Metal Gear franchise. Except Survive, we don't talk about that. Guns of the Patriots, on the other hand, was way above Solid. Once again, Snake had infiltrated our minds and brought with him a campaign loaded with bizarre characters and a deep story. And unlike many PS3 titles, the visuals hold up shockingly well today. We may still fawn over the Phantom Pain and Twin Snakes, but Guns of the Patriots offers the same level of quality as those. Resistance 3.
Those of us remaining did what we could to remind ourselves we were human.
When it comes to talking about Insomniac games, a certain Lombax and Warbot typically dominate the conversation, but one franchise that helped define the PS3 was Resistance, specifically Resistance 3. While Xbox users were fighting the Hive and the Covenant, we were blasting away Chimera in a fantastic single-player campaign and an equally fantastic multiplayer mode. It may not have been the Halo killer Sony had been looking for, but it was still a damn fine sci-fi shooter. Now, if we could only get a remaster of these games, or better yet, Resistance 4. Mod Nation Racers. If you've ever wanted to create your own Mario Kart tracks, karts, and drivers, well, Mod Nation Racers fulfilled that desire and more. With hundreds of customization options to choose from, you could make almost anything you wanted. And take it from the writer of this video, there were some spectacular creations that came from the community. Unfortunately, owners can no longer access online content as servers were shut down in October of 2018. Hey, at least you can still enjoy the excellent single-player campaign and utilize parts from the base game. Heavenly Sword.
We'll be trapped like rats in here.
Even rats can become tigers when trapped.
And tigers make great trophies when skinned.
Enough!
Before this, Ninja Theory had only shelled out one game, Kung Fu Chaos, on the original Xbox. So, what would a Ninja Theory game look like with a first-party budget? You get the epic Heavenly Sword. Our time with the alluring badass Nariko was filled with heart-stopping action, immensely satisfying combat, and visuals that fully utilized the power of the PlayStation 3. Of course, Ninja Theory would be bought by Microsoft long after Heavenly Sword's launch, but even today, folks are demanding a remaster or remake. Seriously, could you imagine seeing this game at 60 frames per second?
We fight together or we die alone. And that means all of us.
Uncharted 2: Among Thieves.
You give me 5 minutes in that tent, that's all it'll take.
Really? 5 minutes? Well, that's great. I won't even have to get my top off.
Chloe, I was thinking more like an explosion.
Honestly, it was a bit difficult choosing which Uncharted to put on here. Do we go with the one that started it all? How about the one with the iconic cargo plane set piece? No, it's hard to put anything above Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. Between the explosive fights in Nepal and the train chase in the Himalayas, the set pieces here were the best the series has ever seen. And the writing? Significantly better than its predecessor. Really, Among Thieves raised the bar that was already set fairly high by the first game. Infamous. Prior to joining Nathan Drake on another questionably murderous adventure, we had met the newest hero from Sucker Punch Productions, Cole McGrath from Infamous. Indeed, Infamous was a stellar open-world experience coming from PlayStation. Empire City is teeming with places to jump off and rail grind around, serving as a blueprint for how all open-world games should handle traversal. On top of that, no matter how many times we vaporized and electrocuted our enemies, every lightning power was a thrill to use. Imagine if this game ever got DualSense support. Little Big Planet 2. The first Little Big Planet was a pioneer in games focused on user-generated content. However, its sequel really blew things out of the water. You see, it wasn't just more stickers and gizmos to make our platforming levels bigger. No, Little Big Planet 2 allowed users to create more than just platforming levels. That's right, you could build racing games, fighters, shooters, and many, many more. With the offerings here, fans of Media Molecule could let their creativity blossom, and some creators went on to become full-time developers at various studios. Should we ever get a fourth LBP, we sincerely hope it takes cues from this one. Ratchet & Clank Future: A Crack in Time. It is widely regarded as the absolute best Ratchet & Clank game ever made, and rightfully so. By this point, Insomniac was going nuts with almost any crazy concept they can think of, including robot pirates. This time around, it was, well, time control. As Ratchet travels the galaxy trying to find his pal, Clank is learning his origins and how to fully unleash the power of the Chronoscepter. For roughly 10 hours, you get the same chaotic Ratchet & Clank action, as well as some of the most creative puzzles the franchise has seen. God of War 3. We waited 5 long years to see Kratos' story come to a conclusion, and when we finally got it in 2010, it was worth the wait. God of War 3 finally brought a close to Kratos' time in the Greek pantheon, loading us up on an adventure with colossal fights, brutal deaths, and an epic score to tie it all together. It was a big bloodied present for fans who had been following the Ghost of Sparta for so long, and to see his tale wrap up in such an emotional way brought a tear to our eye. Finally, our man could rest, until he became the dad of boy in 2018. The Last of Us.
I want Joel to watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's the
I'm
best
not Ellie.
idea.
Him?
Sure, some folks will roll their eyes with this pick, but one simply cannot deny how The Last of Us has changed the industry. A beautifully written story carried out by some of the most talented actors, a disturbingly gorgeous world housing creepy fungus monsters, a movie-like aesthetic, all this combined to form a game that would reshape the AAA market for better or for worse. Additionally, the Factions mode brought about a fantastic multiplayer package that has caused fans to beg for another. Developer Naughty Dog certainly proved its worth to the PlayStation brand with this title.
Run!
Go! Go! Move!
Days Gone.
Get off me! Hey, over here! the fences! Get off!
Just because we're putting Days Gone at the bottom does not make it the worst of the PS4 exclusives. Much like the rest of our list, Days Gone manages to tell a solid story while immersing us in a captivating, albeit morbid, zombie apocalypse. I mean, freaker apocalypse. On top of that, the gunplay and swarms of freakers makes every combat encounter tense and thrilling. So, why so low? Well, it's a bit hard to recommend to anyone who is mildly annoyed by all the zombie movies and TV shows that crop up as frequently as they do. It comes off as unoriginal. But this is also why we have the phrase, "Don't judge a book by its cover."
You goddamn liar! Do it.
Detroit, Become Human.
Remember, this is not just a story. This is our future.
Regardless of whether you like or loathe developer Quantic Dream for its emotional stories, Detroit Become Human is by far their best work. Set in a future where humanoid robots are mankind's servants, players follow Kara, an android on the run with her owner's daughter, Marcus, a caretaker android who soon discovers his free will, and Connor, an android of the police who assists a discriminating, alcoholic investigator. Every character is well written, fully fleshed out in their personality and storyline, and with all of the different choices to choose from, you'll want to see every possible ending after your initial playthrough.
Oh my God.
Concrete Genie. Poor Concrete Genie got overshadowed by the PlayStation 5 as Sony talked about their new console on the game's launch day. But we see you, Concrete Genie. Developer Pixelopus brought us a beautiful tale about a lonesome boy who discovers a magical paintbrush, allowing him to create monsters and restore color back to his home. Whereas most art-themed games resort to giving you a sketchbook and saying, "Draw something," Concrete Genie gives you enough freedom to make its world your own. And its charming monsters, wondrous story, and chill atmosphere serve as an excellent game to play for an evening from start to finish. Medieval. Another title overshadowed by the news of the PS5, Medieval was a remake that stayed true to the original for better and worse, even though it retains the clunky controls and combat back in 1998. Venturing out as Sir Daniel Fortesque felt just as exciting as it did back in 1998. The world of Gallowmere has new life breathed into its dark and dismal landmarks thanks to the power of the PS4, and the character animation perfectly complements the top-notch sound design. Oh, and the fact that you can unlock the original game by achieving a 100% completion? Truly, this is one of the best remakes ever, even with its flaws. Everybody's Golf.
'Cause when we raise on high, every hand in the sky, we're the super fans, feeling grand in the clear stands.
It isn't often that we get a truly exceptional golf game, and rarely did the Everybody's Golf series, or Hot Shots as North Americans know it, underdeliver. Everybody's Golf was essentially the ultimate golfing experience. Along with a handful of cleverly designed courses, the game came with a vast assortment of cosmetics and character customization while celebrating the King's Game. Not only did it test your skills on the course, it also tested your knowledge of the sport and terminology, and even allowed you to participate in some fun golf cart racing. Regardless, if you're a casual or hardcore golf fan, this was worth the price of admission. Little Big Planet 3. Admittedly, the Little Big Planet series was growing a bit tiresome at this point, but that doesn't make its third main entry any less spectacular. LBP3 came out with its own slew of creative ideas, its main focus being the different playable characters. Swoop, Toggle, and Oddsock each brought new mechanics and concepts to the franchise with their different abilities, paving the way for players to come up with fresh ideas for their own levels and games to upload. Basically, it was another charming adventure with Sackboy and friends, and another good excuse to exercise our imagination for an afternoon. Until Dawn.
No! No! Shit!
Now, we can be honest and say that Until Dawn isn't exactly a perfect candidate compared to most other horror games, specifically when it comes to character animation. However, we would argue that its uncanny looks add to the discomfort it carries with its campy tone. Despite its occasional cheesiness, Until Dawn still managed to bring the scares, and they came hard. From quick-time events to collecting totems to telling your therapist what terrifies you the most, the game invites you to participate in its TV-like narrative while throwing a few curveballs. Even if you're only remotely into horror, this is well worth your time. Shadow of the Colossus. There was much debate over whether or not we should include Shadow of the Colossus on this list. Honestly, how many times can you remake or remaster the same game? Even with that question, this is ultimately the definitive version of the PS2 classic. We could go on about the visual fidelity all day, with the improved draw distance, highly detailed textures and environments, and everything. The real improvements here are in the controls. Certain movements and mechanics have been more streamlined, making them easier to understand for new players. In other words, it's a remake that far surpasses the original in more ways than just having a fresh coat of paint. Tearaway Unfolded. First-party UK-based studio Media Molecule didn't have a strong presence during the PS4 era. Little Big Planet 3 was mostly developed by Tencent-owned studio Sumo Digital. This isn't to say they didn't put out a banger of their own with Tearaway Unfolded. An enhanced remake of their 2013 PlayStation Vita game, Tearaway Unfolded added a plethora of new levels and ideas that weren't possible on the Vita, and even went so far as to design concepts around the PS4's hardware and the DualShock controller. Brimming with cleverness and personality, this was a game that could turn any frown upside down. The Last of Us, Part 2. We are very well aware of just how contentious The Last of Us has become within not just the PlayStation community, but gaming in general. We can understand how many would perceive the game as shocking for the sake of being shocking, and the dozen or so hours spent with Abby were not exactly what gamers were expecting. However, it would be an injustice to neglect the technical achievements in The Last of Us Part 2, specifically in its complex AI and massive wealth of accessibility features. Companies looking to reach more people with their games should take note of the latter. infamous Second Son. Considering the PlayStation 4 was just barely a year old, Second Son was a promising start to a new era of the platform. Yes, some of us were disappointed about Delson Rowe replacing Cole McGrath. To each their own, but you cannot ignore the creativity and marvel behind this game. Developer Sucker Punch Productions got crazy with the smoke, neon, concrete, and video powers? Neat and unconventional ideas. And it may not be the best game in the franchise, but it's still worthy of being called one of the PS4's greatest titles. Astrobot Rescue Mission. We were debating whether to leave off PSVR games, but since they require a PS4 in order to run, we couldn't leave off our adorable Astro. Astrobot Rescue Mission was exactly what the PSVR needed to get PS4 owners to jump into the world of VR. Not mentioning the fact we already had PS4s, you know? It isn't enough to just move Astro around. Every level requires some degree of interaction in order to progress, and you'll find so many cleverly hidden secrets as you venture forth. Astrobot Rescue Mission is a miraculous joyride, and it's some of the most fun 3 hours you'll ever have. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
These sewer rats appear to call themselves Avalanche, sir.
How do you remake a game as magnificent and expansive as Final Fantasy VII? A tall order for most studios. For Square Enix, though, it was worth every nickel and dime. Final Fantasy VII Remake was a pure passion project, as it expanded upon every character's backstory, including ones who were only supporting cast members, and the reworked combat system managed to incorporate new and modern ideas without sacrificing those featured in the original. But if you haven't played the original, we highly recommend you go play the first before jumping into this one. You'll realize why this was such a big deal to so many players.
Let us defy destiny. Together. Cloud, there's still so much to be done.
Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. We all know that Uncharted 2 will probably be the best game in the franchise until the day it dies. However, Uncharted 4 came super close to overthrowing it. Its only stumble? Being just a little bit slower in his pacing. Even so, this was the perfect send-off for Nathan Drake. The semi-open world approach was pulled off surprisingly well. The story was cleverly written and compelling from start to finish, and it perfectly closes Nathan Drake's story. It's easily one of the best games to come from Naughty Dog in recent years, and it's a must-play, assuming you've already played the first 3 games.
Jesus, you guys act like you never spend time in prison. If you want something dirty done, then you wait for lights out.
Yeah. Where's that electrical panel for this place?
Ratchet and Clank. Don't worry, this is the last time we'll be talking about remakes on this list. And of them all, Ratchet & Clank was the best of the batch. Though it has some problems with how it severs aspects of what made the original game so great, like the scrappy attitude, it still manages to bring some major improvements. For example, the weapon reel functions more closely with the later games, giving players pause to assess their situation and carefully select from their arsenal. Hardcore fans might not appreciate the ultra G-rated tone, but this was a great way to keep fans satisfied until Rift Apart launched on PS5.
Did that guy just slide down a sewer pipe?
Horizon Zero Dawn. New IPs come and go. Sony struck gold here though. Horizon Zero Dawn managed to surpass its ultra-generic name and bring us an experience unlike any other. We could spend hours dissecting the puzzles, lore, and characters, but the stars of the show here are the combat and enemy design. The way the dinosaur-like machines are constructed helps you recognize where potential weak points are and gives you an idea which tools are right for the job. Sure, the animation can seem uncanny at times, but it's easy to look past when the game plays this well. Marvel's Spider-Man. With the Batman Arkham games having ended, it was only a matter of time before Marvel got a Batman Arkham of their own. In comes Insomniac Games with Marvel's Spider-Man, promising a new age of not just superhero games, but licensed games as a whole. Breathtaking visuals, thrilling combat, satisfying web-slinging, and a compelling story are wrapped up in one webby package here. And none of it is marred in exaggerated swagger. We would happily put it up higher if only it didn't have those dull stealth missions with MJ and Miles. Sorry, Spidey!
So, should we kiss now? Yeah, maybe later.
God of War.
I warned you.
Finally.
Despite what other outlets might try to say, the older God of War games are still fantastic games today, bloodthirsty rage and all. As for God of War 2018, it manages to fit that same combo-fueled action while also hitting differently in several ways. The epic and booming soundtrack, the unique environments, the way you can mix your axe and blades with Atreus' archery, the impacts you feel visually and audibly when you recall the Leviathan axe. It all makes you feel like a powerhouse. And even on the easiest difficulty, God of War does its damn hardest to kick you down and help you hone your skills. Our only complaint? Man, Midgard houses a lot of trolls.
That's what you get!
Boy.
Think I'm afraid of you!
Bloodborne. Oh, Bloodborne. You have been done a tremendous disservice. With your splendidly morbid atmosphere, your depressing and dark characters, your relentless boss fights, and harsh embrace of death, you deserve so much more. As fans of PlayStation and From Software games, it's incredibly hard to say a game is better, nay, superior than you. So why must we do this? Why must we betray our good graces towards you and put you at number 2? 4 words, 30 frames per second. An unfair judgment upon you, considering modern times, yes, but a judgment nonetheless. So, Sony, put this game on PS5 already and make it 60, damn it! Ghost of Tsushima.
Ready?
We'd like to take a moment to say that every game featured on this list is fantastic in its own ways. Every game on this list is 100% a must-own for anyone who has a PS4. But when discussing games that are on the cusp of perfection, Ghost of Tsushima was the closest to achieve that. A well-written story, exceptional combat that enforces patience and skill, a wealth of exciting adventures to live out your samurai and/or ninja fantasy, a free expansion that allowed us to play with friends. It ticked every box. The only complaint we had was the sheer number of Inari shrines, and even that is a trivial criticism. Every PS4 owner needs to play the games we mentioned here, but if there is one that defines the generation, it was Ghost of Tsushima.
Final Fantasy XVI. Eschewing the turn-based battles of older Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy XVI leans all the way into full-on action RPG goodness. As Clive, you must journey through the brutal lands of Valisthea in order to seek justice, vengeance, and an understanding of the Blight, in addition to the power of the icons. Final Fantasy XVI relishes in its dark, moody, and mature storyline and characters, offering up a tale that isn't for the faint of heart. On top of the game just looking downright gorgeous, it's easy to get swept up in the frenetic and palpable action combat and the bombastic icon sections that are replete with over-the-top fighting, music, and imagery. Fans of Final Fantasy, and even those new to the venerable franchise, owe it to themselves to check out this poignant and enticing RPG.
The chaos he would wreak would sweep all of Valisthea into the abyss.
Stellar Blade. Part character action game, part Souls-like, Stellar Blade, if you'll excuse the obvious, is, well, stellar. It's one of those games that aims to sink its hooks into you right from the get-go without ever letting go. Now, most of this comes down to the game's over-the-top kinetic action combat, but it also comes from the narrative. Earth has been ravaged and humans are being eradicated, so it's up to Eve and her pals to take back what is rightfully theirs, while ensuring the remaining populace and cities don't fall to ruin, or at least more so. Characters just pop off the screen, the apocalyptic world is haunting yet beautiful, the combat is tough, visceral, and frenetic, but always fair, and the game's action tendencies ensure there's always something to look forward to while playing. Simply put, we need more single-player focused games like this one, so it's truly delightful to see Stellar Blade gaining traction and praise.
Her mission is to save the planet by defeating the Elder Natiba.
All we must do is complete the mission.
Helldivers 2.
In this time of need, Super Earth once again calls upon her mightiest, bravest, most obedient heroes. The Helldivers.
Helldivers 2 truly came out of nowhere and has achieved incredible success. It's really no surprise, seeing as developers Arrowhead Game Studios have managed to nail the very often despised live service formula. It's a deeply fun and engaging solo or co-op sci-fi shooter with intense battles, tongue-in-cheek humor, oodles upon oodles of content, and so much more. If fun factor alone was the only parameter for a game's success, then Helldivers 2 would definitely take the cake here. The sense of joy that comes from teaming up with some buddies, or heck, even some strangers online, is palpable to say the least. Sure, they might grief you with an uber powerful weapon or a stratagem, but it will at least provide a good laugh or two as you get ready to hop back into the bug/alien shooting goodness. Gran Turismo 7. It's pretty darn remarkable to think that the pinnacle racing sim series has been going strong since its inception way back in 1997 on the PlayStation 1. Fortunately, fans of this long-running racing series can once again get their gearhead fix with Gran Turismo 7. While the game was understandably met with some division due to some progression and monetization issues, developer Polyphony Digital still managed to create a pure sim experience for those up to the challenge. Gran Turismo 7 features a robust suite of gameplay modes, including the fan favorite GT Simulation mode. From a host of real-world vehicles and locales, racing sim players have so much to enjoy with this game. Plus, it can now be played in VR with PSVR 2 for added immersion. Split Fiction. The incredible team at Hazelight have done it again, following up on their excellent work in Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, A Way Out, and It Takes Two. Split Fiction is another top-notch co-op only experience where gameplay variety is king. Stepping into the shoes of Mio and Zoe, the pair must venture through perilous worlds of their own creation. You see, Mio and Zoe are authors, albeit with very different creative and professional goals in mind that lead them to Radar Publishing. Split Fiction truly excels with a staggering variety of gameplay scenarios and set pieces that constantly enthrall. Set in and around a plethora of highly inventive fantasy and sci-fi worlds, Split Fiction thrusts you and a pal into constantly changing fun adventures.
I took inspiration for this story from when me and my sister were younger.
Look at all of this! It's amazing!
Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. This game could probably just be titled The Real Medieval Simulator, and it would perfectly encapsulate what to expect from the follow-up to the beloved yet uber-janky first game. This time around, you once again step into the role of Henry of Skalitz, as he attempts to make a name for himself in and around the Kingdom of Bohemia. Everything in this game takes effort and work, from the simplest of combat encounters and communications with locals to more challenging affairs like trying to form alliances. Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 iterates and builds upon the first game fantastically. You are really able to shape Henry into the character of your choosing, whether that happens to be a high and mighty noble or a humble peasant, or I guess anything in between. This is a game that demands patience and skill if you hope to make it through one more day in medieval life.
This lot. Watch out, here we go. Henry, our hero Henry, the fellow who helps his fellow man. His fellow man.
Black Myth: Wukong. Black Myth: Wukong comes along from developer Game Science to offer up a solid, pure video game experience through and through. Black Myth: Wukong is deeply enjoyable and a challenging action-adventure title that, while providing its own unique gameplay/narrative experience, still does share some similarities with Souls-like games, for better or worse depending on the type of player you are. It's a polished adventure brimming with over-the-top combat, brutal boss fights, engrossing exploration, excellent rewards, and stellar world design. If you want a PS5 game that provides pure adventure, then Black Myth: Wukong might just be for you. Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Elegantly swinging from success to success, Insomniac's Spider-Man games just keep on getting better with each new release. Taking everything that made the original 2018 game and Miles Morales so special, namely terrific storytelling, in-depth character arcs, and pure fun escapism. Story-wise, we get to see Peter Parker and Miles Morales sharing the screen as they seek to stop the relentless Kraven the Hunter as he and his goons stalk New York City. Adding to that is the Venom symbiote and the narrative arc of Harry Osborn.
This is my best friend, Harry. Hey, good to meet you.
The intertwining relationships makes for a captivating experience all throughout the game's runtime. Plus, Spider-Man 2 might just be the most fun platinum trophy to work towards and obtain.
I didn't know there were bears in these woods.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Well now, think we woke it up.
For many Final Fantasy fans, the thought of topping the greatness of Final Fantasy VII Remake seemed almost impossible. Then Rebirth came along and upped the ante even more, making it one of the best in the entirety of the series' history. As you might imagine, Rebirth picks up where Remake left off, with Cloud and company exploring the planet as they seek to stop Shinra's continued exploitation, while working to stop Sephiroth for good. Well, hopefully.
Sephiroth was in Midgard. We fought him. Whatever happened, he's alive.
But why come back now?
While open world games might seem a dime a dozen, Rebirth instead focused on highly explorable open zones where you are drawn to every nook and cranny organically. And when you do get into the throes of combat, you are greeted to some high-octane, in-your-face, action-packed battles, where elements of strategy and tactics can still come into play. Rebirth knows how to keep you hooked moment after moment. Baldur's Gate 3.
And I'm here to save you again.
What can be said about Baldur's Gate 3 that hasn't already been summed up before? This titanic, nuanced, and thought-provoking player agency-driven RPG might just be the pinnacle of gameplay variety and storytelling prowess from Larian Studios, who definitely know a thing or two about crafting in-depth gaming experiences. One of the central reasons this game has truly become one of the best on PS5 is because it allows you to play and interact with its world and characters in every conceivable way. If you can think of a way forward, no matter how bonkers, the game likely lets you do just that. This nature stems from the game's thoroughly incorporated Dungeons & Dragons elements, from non-linear story beats, central characters possibly being killed off, the ubiquity of dice rolls, and other things that are like that basically. Baldur's Gate 3 really allows you to create and shape your own story with your very own avatar, and for these reasons alone, it deserves to be lauded.
The world and its denizens will react in kind, shaped by each and every decision.
You brought us this far. So how shall we proceed?
Hogwarts Legacy.
I have a rare ability to see whispers of ancient magic.
Extraordinary.
The sheer idea of existing in a fully realized Harry Potter universe truly felt like a pipe dream for most fans, that is, until Hogwarts Legacy released. The attention to detail that went into creating Hogwarts Castle, Hogsmeade, and the surrounding world captivated budding witch and wizard students immediately, with those feelings persisting all throughout this media experience. Creating your very own witch or wizard and guiding them through the perils of being a new fifth-year student at the renowned Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is simply sublime. From the intricacies of the game's quests to the meticulously designed nature of the world, Hogwarts Legacy is the epitome of magical greatness. And that's not even mentioning the frenetic spell-based combat, flying around the open world on your broom, exploring locales from the Harry Potter series, and managing your very own room of requirement. Simply put, Hogwarts Legacy is a must-play game on PS5.
We leave our legacy in your hands.
Elden Ring. If you take the punishing brutality of the Soulsborne formula and throw them into a bubbling cauldron with an expansive open world, plenty of player agency, near endless hidden areas, and a bevy of unique weapons, well, you, of course, get the behemoth that is Elden Ring. Where many other Soulsborne games push you in a semi-linear fashion, Elden Ring instead lets you take a new direction, venture off elsewhere to just try and forge ahead. It's exactly this type of player freedom that gives Elden Ring its endless sense of playability, even with its steep difficulty. The fact that From Software took this duality and made it work seamlessly in a lovingly crafted open world is downright commendable. Add in a nuanced and thought-provoking environmental story and world partly created by George R.R. Martin, and you get a game that is ready to pull you in and not let you go anytime soon. Resident Evil 4 Remake. So how do you follow up one of the greatest survival horror games ever made, especially as a remake? Well, Resident Evil 4 Remake did just that. The 2005 original is still lauded to this day, and it's just as playable as it was all those years ago. Instead of just throwing a new coat of paint on the game yet again and calling it a day, Capcom truly went above and beyond to tell Leon Kennedy's horrific, nightmarish story in dramatic and awe-inspiring fashion. Side by side, both the original and the 2023 remake follow most of the same story beats, but there are plenty of surprises and new additions thrown in to make this game feel brand new.
You can stop right there.
Ada.
Gameplay-wise, the RE4 remake knocked it out of the park, offering intense and brutal third-person action combat alongside more robust and rewarding exploration. From the weighty, hefty feel to combat, to the terrifying art direction, to the memorable characters and villains, heck, to the weapon upgrades, there's just so much to this remake that consistently impresses.
Now that he has chosen death.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Ghost of Tsushima. While open world games might seem a dime a dozen nowadays, Ghost of Tsushima came along to completely refresh what it means to explore a gaming playground. players stepped into the role of Jin Sakai as he adventures across the expansive island of Tsushima. Instead of just pointing you where to go next, the game utilizes a wind mechanic that gently nudges you in the right direction. But let's be honest, most of us were too enraptured from exploring off the beaten path, taking out enemies via the intense combat made up of various stances and sword maneuvers. The role of a samurai taking on the Mongols in a lush Japanese setting isn't an easy task, so it's fortunate that this game keeps you immersed around every sun-soaked corner with stellar gameplay loops and progression. Horizon Forbidden West.
Well, it doesn't look like there's an easy way out of here.
The follow-up to the beloved Zero Dawn, Forbidden West sees protagonist Aloy venture across a post-apocalyptic western United States where nature has reclaimed its territory. The star of the show here, apart from the fantastic locations, is, of course, the evolution of the machine animals that Aloy encounters during her journey across the lands. Playing this game on PS5 is a real visual and auditory treat, one where you will stop plenty of times to take in the gorgeous yet ravaged vistas, perhaps even taking a screenshot or two. Plus, Forbidden West ups the gameplay ante with enhanced combat and traversal, amongst the other enjoyable action RPG elements. God of War Ragnarok. While the long-winded Atreus section in Ragnarok might not be everyone's cup of tea, there's no doubt about it that the latest installment in Kratos' more mature journey is downright stunning. The visceral Leviathan axe and Blades of Chaos combat returns and feels better than ever. There's just this perfect weightiness and punch to pummeling foes in this game that really can't be matched in the action-adventure genre. Once again, players adventure with Kratos and Atreus, this time on the eve of Fimbulwinter. The amount of care and craft that went into each facet of this game is palpable, whether you are exploring Sindri's charmingly ethereal treehouse or the epic grand scale of Vanaheim. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. The Ratchet & Clank series has been going strong through every generation and evolution of PlayStation. Rift Apart is the culmination of the developer's work, as this title offers up adrenaline-pumping gameplay, dazzling set-piece moments, a quirky and epic story, plus so much more. The first time you see the raw power of the PS5 being used during the Rift tethering sections is simply amazing. And it's not just a gimmick, since it's woven into the very fabric of the narrative. The series' kinetic gunplay, melee combat, and traversal options are better than ever here, and it's always a blast to see and try out the creative weapons on offer as you work to level each of them up. Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
With one hopeless mission: destroy the paintress so she can never paint death again.
Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is easily one of the best RPGs of all time. The amount of love and passion poured into this game is evident in every single facet, from the emotional and weighty story, to the superbly written and voiced characters, to the gorgeous music, to the finely tuned and highly engaging turn-based battles that blend in real-time elements, and of course, so much more. This is one of those games that just oozes with style, substance, and plenty of panache. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 sees the titular expedition seek out the paintress in order to put a stop to the Gommage, a harrowing event where people at the age of the number written on the monolith vanish into nothingness. That's all I will say about the story here, since this is a game that just begs to be experienced without knowing too much about it beforehand. If you consider yourself an RPG fan, then join Mael, Gustav, Verso, CL, Lune, and Minoko as they explore and battle their way through a mysterious and engrossing world. Silent Hill 2. Bloober Team truly knocked it out of the park with 2024's Silent Hill 2 remake. It's honestly sort of a miracle just how good this remake is. It achieved the impossible by being distinct enough from the OG game where both can actually stand proudly side by side as two of the best horror games of all time. Now, if for some reason you aren't familiar with Silent Hill 2, you play as James Sunderland, a broken man who heads to the eponymous town in order to find his wife, Mary. Of course, saying anything more would be a disservice to anyone who hasn't experienced the 2001 original or this fantastic 2024 remake. Bloober Team managed to keep the eerie, foreboding, and ominous mood of the original, but infused just enough modernity to cast it alongside the likes of the Dead Space remake and the Resident Evil 4 remake. Yes, it's really that good. Everything from the setting, to the psychological horror, to the character writing, to the voice acting, to the combat, to the puzzles, to even the exploration is handled with beautiful care, craft, and aplomb.
I don't need you anymore.
Astrobot. Long live the reign of 3D platformers. Team Asobi didn't hold back any punches when it came to crafting one of the very best 3D platformers of all time. Taking everything that worked well in previous Astrobot games, then ratcheting it all up to 100, 2024's Astrobot is a pure love letter to both the genre as a whole and to all things Sony PlayStation. This is just one of those games that keeps you smiling the whole way through. Tackling the creative and inventive platforming stages, hoovering up the bevy of fun collectibles, and taking on the larger-than-life bosses is always thrilling here. Astrobot is just overflowing with joy, style, and confidence, and it's felt all throughout the entirety of the game, never letting up on pure platforming fun. Seriously, don't miss this game. It's an all-around outstanding experience.
Zach, focus. There are no Shinra troops on this train, understood?
Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we are looking at the often forgotten but heavily influential handheld console by talking about the 20 best PSP games. Let's do it. Before we continue, we publish content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. Little Big Planet.
On Little Big Planet, you become a delightful little sack person.
For new fans who don't know, Sackboy has a solid PlayStation legacy, including the PSP spin-off Little Big Planet. Though PlayStation isn't as known for platforming icons today, Little Big Planet is a testament to the brand's ability to create platformers that are genre-defining. While more streamlined than the PS3 installments, this PSP entry shines with its diverse levels and beloved feature allowing players to craft their own levels. Even though it dropped on PS3, it thrived on PSP. I'm a poet, and I didn't even mean to rhyme just now. Wait. Siphon Filter Dark Mirror.
Leon, I'm inside the compound.
Copy that. Gabe, they were ready and waiting for us.
Yeah, they were waiting. But I guarantee they're not ready.
Now primarily recognized for the PS4 exclusive Days Gone, Bend Studio originally developed the third-person stealth series Siphon Filter, which is actually set in the same universe, but that's info for another list. The game was well received critically, marking a return to form after the mixed reception of its predecessor by focusing on a more streamlined main storyline. It also enhanced gameplay by offering players greater options during stealth segments and introducing new weapon types for third-person combat. Siphon Filter on the PS1 walked, so Siphon Filter on the PSP could run.
Go!
Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. Grand Theft Auto franchise achieved notable success on the PSP, with Chinatown Wars emerging as the most acclaimed entry on Sony's portable system. Originally released for the Nintendo DS, the PSP version maintained the top-down perspective of the former, reminiscent of the first two games in the main series. Despite its different presentation, Chinatown Wars received widespread praise. The comic book style art direction resonated with players, effectively accommodating the lower specifications of handheld gaming compared to home consoles. It was a change in style that never stuck, but landed pretty hard. Maybe it didn't stick because it was so smooth. Castlevania: The Dracula X Chronicles.
What?
For years, Dracula X Rondo of Blood was seen as a hidden gem in the Castlevania series, long confined to a rare Japan-exclusive release. Then came Castlevania: The Dracula X Chronicles, which offered not only a 2.5D remake of Rondo of Blood, but also the original game and an enhanced version of the iconic Symphony of the Night from the PlayStation. It was so much bang for your buck that it seems almost too good to be true. To this day, it stands as one of the best horror games in the Castlevania series. Secret Agent Clank.
I will report back with my findings.
Remember, Agent, I've got my eye on you.
If you're after a stylish and capable Ratchet & Clank spin-off, Secret Agent Clank is your guy. So much so that it's kinda shocking this entry hadn't dropped sooner. Clank takes on this solo adventure with finesse, mixing the classic Ratchet & Clank gameplay with diverse 3D platforming challenges. Packed with gadgets, outlandish weapons, and familiar allies, Clank's spin-off brims with the series' signature creativity and polish. The PSP was defined by these spin-off titles, almost intentionally bringing smaller side characters to the smaller side console.
And then... Yeah, everyone in here is innocent. This may be a bit of a shock to the system, but if you want to survive in here for more than today, you better have a little fight in you. Huh?
Dissidia 12 Final Fantasy.
You figure they all made it to Cosmos by now?
I guess they could have. You must be tired, huh?
Of course I am. Laguna led us down the scenic road. I don't know what you were thinking.
Yeah, I could have sworn this was the quick route.
The original Dissidia Final Fantasy dialed up the fan service, but its sequel, Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy, turns the dial for Final Fantasy up to M. And if you don't understand just how funny that joke is, you're dead to me. Serving as a prequel to the first Dissidia, the newer entry combines traditional JRPG elements with higher energy, one-on-one fighting mechanics, while also addressing balance tweaks from the first game and introducing 9 new Final Fantasy characters. The game was just insane for fans, and combined with near-perfect gameplay, it's the recipe for a standout game on the console. In fact, at least top 20. Gran Turismo.
Ready? Start!
Gran Turismo PSP is a game that defied expectations with its impressive visuals and performance on the PSP. It stands as one of the best racing titles on the console. The game went so far under the radar that when you Google Gran Turismo PSP, the top result is a thread asking if the game was good, for someone who missed it. The game doesn't just look stunning, it's packed with content, featuring over 800 cars, 35 tracks, and smooth 60 FPS gameplay. 60 FPS on the PSP? Valkyria Chronicles 2.
俺はアバンだ。よろしくな。お前は。
そっか。挨拶まだだったね。私はコゼット。よろしく。
Many worried that this portable sequel to the PS3's Valkyria Chronicles would lose the series' signature depth. Those fools will never doubt the PSP again. Valkyria Chronicles 2 continues the first game's story seamlessly, guiding players through the Landseal Royal Military Academy and immersing them in complex, rewarding conflicts on and off the battlefield. With extensive troop management, vehicle customization, and strategic gameplay in Galia's War, it quickly becomes clear that this handheld entry stands confidently alongside its console counterpart. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII.
Zack, focus. There are no Shinra troops on this train, understood?
Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII brings fans back to one of gaming's most beloved worlds in a way that feels perfectly suited for handheld play. It's also my personal favourite entry on this list, so I'm going to talk about it for a bit longer. Oops. With plenty of time to spend alongside Zack and other Final Fantasy VII favourites, the game's short burst missions let you dive into the adventure without the lengthy grind typical of RPGs. The unique slot machine system keeps battles lively, adding an element of luck and surprise to every single encounter. This was also an early project directed by the same man who went on to make Final Fantasy XV. But don't let that deter you. I actually love Final Fantasy XV, I was just dogpiling for comedic effect.
Resolved.
Loco Roco 2. Loco Roco 2 is simply impossible to dislike. Go ahead, try. Within minutes, Japan Studios' irresistibly charming platform puzzler will have you singing along with its delightful blobs and exploring their vibrant, colourful world at every opportunity. This sequel brings back everything that made Loco Roco a hit, like Loco and Roco. Guys, I'm so funny. You'll find yourself eagerly rolling, bumping, and squishing the Loco Rocos through imaginative landscapes to uncover all its secrets and bonus missions. Go buy a PSP and get yourself some Loco Roco. Patapon 3. Describing this quirky PSP exclusive series without using the word Patapon itself is nearly impossible. It's like trying to eat food without your tongue. Mixing rhythm mechanics with strategic elements, Patapon feels like Lemmings meets Guitar Hero. In Patapon 3, developer Pyramid refines the formula to perfection, tasking you with leading an army of Patapons to victory against the 7 evil Archfiends by tapping out drum beats to command their actions. And I fully understand for those who've never played it, I may as well have just said, the game tasks you with leading the Binger Bang Booms to victory against Wriggledy Diggly Ba 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 Boom. Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories.
Listen, if plans change, I'll let you know.
What's this?
It's a pager, tough guy. Welcome to the 80s, Vic.
GTA Vice City Stories may not be the first GTA game on a portable console, but it's undoubtedly the most polished on the PSP. As a prequel to the PS2's Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories pushes the PSP's limit to deliver a vibrant, immersive experience that ties into the main game in really interesting ways, not unsimilar to Better Call Saul. With a revamped game engine, it showcases a cleaner, visually striking version of Vice City on a handheld device.
You must be Vic. Jerry told me about you. Hey, I used to be in the service.
Yeah, listen. He said you'd have some money for me.
Sure. Well, I ain't a bank. I don't have it on me, but I'll take you to it.
Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions. Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions takes the tactical RPG classic from the original PlayStation and enhances it with new characters, job classes, and beautifully animated cutscenes, giving even longtime fans reasons to dive back in. Even to this day, it is mentioned in the never-ending how to do a remake right debate. The plot is complex, but if you stick with it, you'll find yourself captivated by the strategic depth as you build a fine-tuned army. The game isn't particularly forgiving for newcomers, but those who commit to learning its systems will find it thoroughly rewarding. It's not that hard. Just play it, coward. Persona 3 Portable.
No one can escape time. It delivers us all to the same end. You can't plug your ears and cover your eyes.
The PSP adaptation of Persona 3 takes the PS2 original and infuses it with a fresh feel that enhances its handheld experience. It's somewhat abridged, but to its benefit, not its demise. By optimizing the overworld for quick exploration and changing the protagonist's gender from male to female, the narrative tone shifts, offering longtime fans something new to engage with. These impactful changes make the PSP version a standout entry in the JRPG genre, but its greatest strength lies in its exceptional dungeon crawling, which remains unparalleled in the RPG landscape, rivaled only by Persona 4 Golden on the PS Vita. Handheld versions of Persona truly do I'm worried that's only an Australian saying. It's a good thing. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep could have easily been a quick cash grab, a portable title designed to appease fans anxiously awaiting a true sequel. Instead, Square Enix crafted one of the series' most significant games, enriching the unique lore with the same meticulous attention found in other installments. A few trips to familiar Disney locations quickly immerse players back into the Kingdom Hearts experience. If you're craving more Disney, this one has been ported to every console, and it's well worth your time.
The Unversed. As wielders of the Keyblade, you are tasked with striking down any who would upset the balance of light and darkness. The Unversed are no exception.
Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. This game defined my PSP experience. Serving as a sort of definitive edition of Monster Hunter 2, Freedom Unite offered players the chance to embark on exhilarating new hunts against now iconic monsters. Various quality of life enhancements, including the introduction of the Feline Comrade system, which has evolved with each new installment, made Unite a joy to play with friends via the PSP's wireless connection. If nostalgia for the PSP had a face, it would undoubtedly resemble the countless hours spent playing Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. Lumen's Puzzle Fusion. Lumens is a timeless classic and one of the best puzzle games you can experience, hands down. The psychedelic puzzler satisfies our synesthesia cravings by creatively blending light and sound, ensuring that every round feels as fresh and exhilarating as the last, even more than a decade after its release. It arguably rivals Portal, and that is a big call. Lumens transforms block matching into an art form, with each new skin changing the gameplay landscape and evolving a familiar concept into a trippy, rhythm-infused, zen-like retreat for the senses. That was fun to say. Daxter.
With 55 of the nastiest lurkers you ever saw. Suddenly they came at me from the left, so I moved to the right with a chop and a kick and a...
If there is a game that comes to people's mind when they think of the PSP, this is probably that game. Daxter is the unexpected spin-off of the Jak and Daxter PS2 series that you never knew you wanted. Set at the beginning of Jak 2, filling in those 2 years Jak underwent Dark Eco Infusion, the open-world platformer/shooter follows the wisecracking ocelot Daxter as he embarks on a mission to rescue Jak. The impressive visual and gameplay quality of Daxter on such a compact portable console was remarkable at the time, and it still stands strong today as a premium action adventure featuring a cohesive story worthy of a Jak and Daxter name. God of War, Ghost of Sparta. Ready at Dawn and Santa Monica Studio truly captured lightning in a bottle by bringing the God of War series to Sony's handheld with God of War Chains of Olympus, which was an impressive feat. However, Ghost of Sparta takes it a step further with one of the best God of War entries ever made. I played this in the back seat of my parents' car on a long road trip, and they were concerned by the sounds. While it may not match the epic scale of its console counterparts, it comes remarkably close and introduces a few new combat moves along the way. Explore, enjoy, wear headphones. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker captures the blockbuster essence of its console counterparts in a way that makes us wonder if Hideo Kojima secretly enhanced our PSPs. The game defined the PSP as a legitimate console by showing players that if there was a series entry on the handheld system, it was probably going to be powerful enough to affect the plot of console entries in the series, which forced us all to get PSPs to keep up with the story of God of War and Kingdom Hearts and, of course, Metal Gear Solid. The outrageous plot, abundant bonus content, and intricate army building mechanics later featured in Metal Gear Solid 5 keep you engaged throughout its impressive 30-hour runtime. Yes, 30 hours. With the addition of multiplayer co-op and versus mode, these features make Peace Walker feel like a real, full console game.
Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation.
The Order is the future. The Templars will keep our colony French.
With Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, Ubisoft managed the seemingly impossible. Shrink the classic AC formula down for an on-the-go handheld experience that players can easily pop in and out of. And shockingly, they succeeded. Liberation recounts the story of assassin newcomer Aveline and her battle against the Templars in 18th century New Orleans. Ubisoft was somehow able to bring all the AC staples into Liberation. With a detailed world to explore, full of side quests and missions, the series' trademark combat and stealth mechanics, and signature assassinations. Naturally, a handheld AC game can't reach the same high bar set by its console counterparts, but Liberation is still a solid AC experience that shouldn't be missed, especially by fans of the old school Assassin's Creed formula.
Futile murder. Beautiful death. She will make you suffer.
MotorStorm RC. MotorStorm was a showcase series for the PS3, but for their portable entry, MotorStorm took the concept of smaller scale quite literally. Foregoing the series' outlandish vehicular mayhem for smaller tracks, smaller cars, and smaller stakes, everything about MotorStorm RC makes the most of its new diminutive stature. The faster pace of the races make MotorStorm RC perfect for jumping in for a quick race, or one more try for the top of the leaderboards. And the simple controls and action make it approachable for anyone looking for a good time. MotorStorm RC might not be the best looking racer on the Vita, but its clever reinterpretation of the series means even fans of the over-the-top action of the console entries will have a good time zipping around the track in their little RC car. Lumina's Electronic Symphony. Tetris is easily one of the most imitated video games of all time, so naturally, it can be difficult to find a game that does something fresh and new with the formula. The simple mechanic of aligning blocks is made all the more enjoyable with the game's instantly catchy and thumping soundtrack that makes the game worth playing all on its own. Along with creative uses of all the PS Vita's features, Electronic Symphony will easily lull you into a zen-like state with its meditative mixture of puzzles, gorgeous and oftentimes trippy visuals, musical score, and easy pick-up-and-play mentality. Little Deviants. Some of the best games on the go are the ones just focused purely on you having a great time with the little time you have to play. And that's exactly what Little Deviants nails without question. A collection of ridiculous minigames similar to WarioWare, Little Deviants makes liberal use of all the Vita's many unique ways to play and focuses on players' repeated attempts for better times in each of its 30 minigames. Although it would be easy to overlook Little Deviants as nothing more than a tech demo for the Vita's capabilities, those who stick with it will find a fun little distraction that isn't focused on deep mechanics, just on having fun. Resistance Burning Skies.
We called ourselves the Minutemen and prepared for the day we knew was unavoidable.
Even though the Resistance storyline had ended the year prior, there was still one story left to tell, focusing on a new protagonist and location acting as a side story to the main conflict in the console trilogy. Burning Skies does an admirable job condensing the Resistance experience onto Sony's handheld with all the Resistance staples present, in particular, the inventive, over-the-top weaponry the series is known for. Telling a tale of an appropriately smaller conflict, players battle the Chimera through the streets of New York, desperately trying to reunite with their family. Burning Skies was never going to rival the set pieces of the base trilogy, so the smaller scope of the narrative works perfectly for the handheld while still continuing the series' legacy of intense combat and creative weaponry.
It was the last time we saw him. The memory of his actions lived on, as many more began to fight back because of his inspiration.
Tales of Hearts R. JRPG fans have always had it good on Sony's consoles, and the Tales series is one of the most consistently solid franchises that's been going strong for almost 3 decades. While there have been portable entries in the franchise over the years, Tales of Hearts R is one of the few to make it out of Japan, and has the gameplay and scope of one of its main console entries. The Tales series has always been known for its colorful cast of characters and surprisingly deep real-time combat, and Tales of Hearts R maintains everything fans have come to expect from the series on Sony's little handheld that could. With other beloved entries like Tales of Symphonia getting re-releases, it would be disappointing to see this entry trapped on the Vita for good. Freedom Wars. Given the success of the Monster Hunter franchise, it's surprising we don't see that formula in more games. And with no Monster Hunter game made available for the Vita, Sony's own Japan studio took up the challenge of creating their own. Freedom Wars is very much a Monster Hunter style game, and thankfully, that's its greatest strength. The gameplay of Freedom Wars is so much fun that even the dystopian world that would make 1984 look tame by comparison doesn't affect the overall experience. Much like the series that obviously inspired it, players will be combating enormous foes in large arenas and can then use the materials from the fight to upgrade their weapons and equipment to take on even more challenging foes. Battles can get extremely chaotic, but the intuitive camera and surprisingly competent AI companions keep up with the action and help this title stand on its own rather than in a monster's shadow. Mod Nation Racers Road Trip.
The Mod Nation Racing Championship was born and rose to become the premier international karting competition ever.
Mario Kart will always be the king of kart racers, but Mod Nation managed to stand out with its inventive and player-creator-driven content, and nearly the entirety of that experience players loved on the PS3 transfers well to the Vita version Road Trip. While the touch controls can be finicky, the racing itself is still as solid as ever, and has even made some improvements over its console big brother. The heart and soul of Mod Nation is allowing players to create everything from their racer, their kart, and even the tracks themselves, and all that imagination is here in spades, even if the touch controls can get in their own way. Road Trip is perfect for exactly that. A quick couple races while on the go, and a deeply customizable experience when sitting at home with time to spare.
No, this one's all you.
Touch My Katamari.
Craft Katamaris, my boy, to place in the sky. And voila!
The Katamari Damacy series has always been one of the most beloved and weird cult classics ever since its debut back on the PS2, and is one of the few niche series to continue even to this day. While Touch My Katamari doesn't do much to differentiate itself from the tried and true formula fans are familiar with, it does make use of the Vita's touchscreen and rear touchpad in clever ways. By pinching or pulling on the screen, your little prince can stretch out his ball of random junk to collect even more items, or make your ball narrower for faster movement. Although Katamari has been ported to other handheld devices like the Switch, Touch My Katamari is still worth your time for its inventive use of the touch controls and absolutely bonkers story. Plus, well, it's not going to touch itself. Odin Sphere, Leafthashire.
なんだ、グリゼルダが死んだのはあいつの進軍が早すぎたからだ。わしが間に合わなかったせいではないぞ。
Without a doubt, Vanillaware creates some of the most visually stunning JRPGs in the industry, and the updated version of their PS2 classic Odin Sphere remains one of their best. Beyond upscaling the visuals, Leafthashire makes substantial changes to the gameplay, including improvements to combat, and especially the previously chunky menu navigation. Leafthashire acts as more of a director's cut than an updated remake, adding new enemies, boss encounters, and even new locations to explore while making the game more approachable for players on the go with new difficulty options. The multiple characters are all brilliantly written, and exploring the gorgeously hand-painted world never ceases to impress. Leafthashire is a must-play for not only those who missed the initial PS2 release, but fans of classic JRPGs.
その時私に託されたものです。
我が将兵の中でも最も有
Little Big Planet PS Vita.
We are back.
Media Molecule's Little Big Planet series has always been one fueled by the imagination of its audience, and manages to recapture the magic of this assembled world, featuring some of the best uses of the Vita's many extra features. Just like its console brethren, Little Big Planet Vita allows players to create and customize everything about their characters and build their own worlds and levels using the same tools as the developers. However, thanks to the Vita's touch controls, players can pick up objects using the touchscreen and even use the touch controls to solve puzzles in the main game storyline. Unfortunately, due to Sony cutting off support for the Vita, all your creations will remain your own as there's no longer any way to share with other players, but having the magic of Little Big Planet at your fingertips is still worth taking on the go for fans of the series.
Do you think you'll ever... let me see. Brain. Something cool.
Tearaway.
But what this story really needs is some enemies. Goblins!
No! We need something new!
Medium Molecule are hands down some of the most talented and creative developers in the medium, and Tearaway never really got the recognition it deserved like the studio's Little Big Planet series. With everything in the adorable platformer being made of paper and papercraft, Medium Molecule made use of nearly every one of the Vita's features, seamlessly integrating them into the experience. Utilizing everything from the Vita's touchscreen, both front and back, to even the camera, Tearaway crafted, get it, an experience that allowed players to create their own ways to play while unfolding the many layers of the world around them. Tearaway represents the untapped potential of the Vita and remains one of the handheld's best games and most charmingly enjoyable experiences.
We need a new story, one with mystery and danger. I know just the place.
Where are you going? That's not fair! Come back!
Unit 13. One of the greatest benefits of the Vita was undoubtedly the second analog stick, and it was absolutely one of the driving factors that makes Unit 13 stand alongside its third-person shooter console counterparts. Fans of the SOCOM series will find a lot to love about Unit 13 with its cover-based shooting mechanics and objective-based gameplay suited perfectly for the Vita, with many missions only lasting a few minutes for those quick pick-up-and-play sessions. Unit 13 routinely switches up the mission structure by debuffing the player with no regenerative health or no checkpoints during certain missions, but also encourages experimentation, allowing players to approach objectives stealthily or with guns blazing. The story might be nothing more than the thread that stitches each mission together, but it's the gameplay that makes Unit 13 replayable even today. Killzone Mercenary.
The ISA's paying us big bucks, gentlemen. Time to show you're worth it.
The Killzone series might not have been the Halo killer Sony was hoping for, but the series remained one of the most solid FPS series in PlayStation's catalog, and Killzone Mercenary's approach to its familiar formula fits perfect on the Vita. Instead of playing as the ISA, players take on the role of freelance mercenaries taking advantage of the war and are looking to make as much money as possible while doing it. Melee attacks are mapped to the Vita's touchscreen, giving players an up-close and personal feel to each kill, and Killzone Mercenary rewards players with money for upgrades like new weapons and armors for literally anything they do in the game, giving this entry more of an arcadey feel as opposed to the console entry's objective-based gameplay.
I know you only soldier for profit, and I don't have time to persuade you otherwise. You'll get your blood money.
Severed. We're cheating a bit with this entry because it was later ported to the Nintendo Switch, but for fans of Drinkbox Studios' masterful Guacamelee series, this is one that shouldn't be missed no matter the platform. Anyone who's played the Fruit Ninja games will instantly be familiar with the game's mechanics and combat. Using the Vita's touchscreen, players need to furiously swipe at the enemies as they explore the many dungeons, with enemies becoming more resistant to your attacks the deeper you go. Severed has a surprising amount of depth for what initially appears to be simply slashing blindly at the screen, as enemies will require you to nullify their debuffs or shields before you can deal any damage, and we're not gonna lie, the swiping can get a little taxing during longer play sessions. However, the game's gorgeous art style and dark story still make it worth checking out nonetheless. Wipeout 2048. The Wipeout series has been part of PlayStation since its earliest days as a launch game with the original PS1. Taking place at the start of the Wipeout timeline, I had no idea there was lore either, 2048's tracks have a much more urban and grittier feel to them than the other entries' neon-soaked Tokyo skylines, which helps set it apart in the long-running series. Series mainstays such as power pads and weapons are all accounted for, and the game prioritizes car combat more than any other entry, making races more strategic as players need to choose what type of power-ups to focus on depending on their place in the pack. 2048 is unfortunately the last original release in the series, Wipeout Merge doesn't count, so it would be great if this entry could be ported to the PS5 and given a speed boost.
Race complete.
Muramasa Rebirth. Originally released for the Nintendo Wii, Muramasa the Demon Blade was resurrected for the PS Vita as Muramasa Rebirth and was arguably the superior way to experience this 2D action RPG hack and slasher. Combat is incredibly fast and fluid, and in between combat encounters, you'll be interacting with any number of interesting and quirky characters, as well as dining on some beautifully delicious meals to upgrade equipment. Muramasa allows players to customize their loadouts with up to 3 different blades, giving players more options to approach combat whatever their preferred playstyle, but also be mindful of their sword's durability. Vanillaware's gorgeous hand-drawn art style pops on the Vita's vibrant screen, and Muramasa features some of the developer's best character and enemy designs. Anyone who's a fan of the developer's previous games like Odin Sphere or Grim Grimoire will find a lot to love about Muramasa Rebirth. Uncharted Golden Abyss.
Is that smoke? Great. Just pile it on, I can take it.
The Uncharted series is synonymous with PlayStation, so naturally there was an entry on the PS Vita, and Ben's studio taking over for Naughty Dog managed to create a worthy entry in the venerated franchise despite the hardware limitations. Complete with motion capture like its big brothers, Golden Abyss follows Nate, Sully, and some newcomers before the events of Drake's Fortune. Everything fans have come to expect from the series, from its cover-based shooting and climbing, work well on the Vita thanks to the second analog stick, even if the game shoehorns in a lot of the Vita's numerous features to make use of the touchscreen, but thankfully these can be turned off for a more traditional experience. While you're not missing anything major in Nathan's overall arc by skipping this entry, it's still another fun adventure with everyone's favorite treasure hunter.
Sure you got the map right side up this time?
Hey, that could have happened to anyone.
Yeah, it could. So stop giving me shit about the damn GPS.
Deal.
Gravity Rush. Video games are always attempting to give players new ways to explore their worlds, and none have managed such an inventive mechanic as manipulating gravity to do so as Cat in Gravity Rush. One of the most creative takes on the open-world superhero genre, Gravity Rush uses the Vita's built-in gyroscope to manipulate Cat's exploration around the environment, easily turning the sides of buildings into sidewalks or sending her careening across the cityscape. The game's gorgeous anime-esque art style pulls you into its world, and the game's narrative remains much more lighthearted than traditional superhero tales. It's truly a shame the game didn't reach a bigger audience, as it's not only one of the Vita's best games, but also one of the most inventive uses of the system's mechanics. As long as you don't easily suffer from motion sickness, that is. Persona 4 Golden.
Ah, it seems we have a guest with an intriguing destiny.
Fans of the Persona series have very passionate feelings about which is the best Persona game of all time, and arguably Persona 4 will always land at the top of the list. The re-release of the late PS2 title, Golden not only updates the visuals, but also gives fans additional content such as new characters, storylines, new personas, as well as gameplay improvements across the board. Following some of the best written characters in the series as they investigate increasingly grisly murders, the game is full of memorable moments, intense battles, and difficult player-driven choices. Coupled with its ridiculously catchy and banging soundtrack, it's all too easy to just leave the game running and get lost in the game's soundtrack as your real-world playlist. Persona 4 isn't just one of the best games on the Vita, it's one of the best JRPGs of all time.
I can still work you harder, you know.
A good one, sir.
Thanks for watching. Check out more great videos here.